Hi guys, my name is Dray and welcome back to another episode of True Crime Tuesday, where every Tuesday I sit down with you guys and we hash out a true crime story together. Now stories can range from anywhere between murders to disappearances, kidnappings, cults and more. So if you're a true crime freak like myself, I would highly recommend liking and subscribing. And if not, that is totally fine. I am just more than happy that you're here with me today because today's case, we're going to be talking about Courtney Taylor Clenney. Who is Courtney Clenney? We'll get into that in a second. But if you Google her, the first thing that generally tends to pop up is OnlyFans model stabs her boyfriend. But it is a fairly recent case, and generally I like to stay clear from recent cases only because there's not much information about the people involved. Furthermore, we are still waiting for the verdict of this case to come out, but it was a very interesting case, so I thought we would just give it a go. I think I will just present the case to you guys. I've gathered the facts mainly from podcasts and news outlets, as well as YouTube videos. I'm just going to present to you the information that I have, and I hope that we can sort of spark some conversation in the comments below because it is a very interesting case. I have found that the internet is in a way split into two on who to believe with this whole situation, but let's get into this case because it is a very interesting one. Courtney Taylor Clenney was born on the 21st of April in 1996 in Midland, Texas, but there was not much information about her childhood. So her family moved to Austin, Texas when she was just 7 years old, and even though we don't have much information about her parents or her childhood, what we do know was that she took a lot of pride in entertaining people from a really young age, so she knew that she wanted to be an actress or she wanted to be famous from when she was a little girl. During high school, she then started to pay more attention to her physique, into fitness, into sports. So she started getting into that world and started to participate in sports and fitness competitions. I also found that she was an EHP Labs athlete as well as a qualified personal trainer. In 2016, she taps into her dreams of being an actress and she ends up on the film Everybody Wants Some. And soon after, Courtney actually became an OnlyFans model. Now, for those of you who don't know, OnlyFans is a subscription-based platform and app that was formed in 2016, but really rose to popularity during the COVID lockdowns in 2020. So with OnlyFans, people can pay for content such as photos, videos, and live streams through a monthly subscription. And content is generally created by YouTubers, fitness trainers, as well as sex workers. And it really took off with a lot of adult content creation, especially during the COVID lockdowns. Now, I believe majority of the content there is not safe for work. So NSFW, yes. So, you know, it's spicier content. Some would even call it soft porn. But yeah, that is, I think, essentially a nutshell of OnlyFans and what it is. But if you have a better explanation for it, please feel free to correct me. And yeah, so Courtney Clenney, also known as Courtney Taylor on OnlyFans, did really, really well for herself. How well, you might ask? Well, in 2020, she made close to $1 million. In 2021, she made close to $1.8 million. And for about half of 2022, she made close to $400K. So pretty well, if you ask me. She made a lot of money posting photos of herself essentially half nude or nude in very suggestive and sexual poses. And even on Instagram to this day, she has about 2 million followers. And with this money, she got very comfortable with going to nice, expensive places, luxury hotels. She dressed really nicely in sort of branded clothing. She was just living her life, and this was her day-to-day life. Now, sources are a little bit unclear on the exact year that the pair met, but in 2020 or 2021, Courtney meets Christian Obumseli. Now, the pair had met in Austin and they started dating, and soon enough, they decided that they wanted to move to Miami, Florida. It's interesting because a lot of articles say that Christian was actually known as Toby. I'm not really sure where the nickname Toby came from. Maybe it was his middle name. We don't really know. But apparently a lot of his friends called him Toby. But obviously I didn't know Christian personally, so I am just going to call him Christian. Now, not much is known about Christian except the fact that he was involved in cryptocurrency. So I'm not really sure exactly what he did as a profession, but he was involved in crypto. And on top of that, he is of Nigerian descent. So like I said, the couple had planned to move from Austin to Florida, and they actually got a nice luxury apartment in Edgewater, Miami. Now, straight off the bat, according to multiple staff members as well as neighbors, the pair fought a lot. They were involved in multiple domestic incidents, and it was so frequent and often that apparently they had actually tried to evict the pair from the apartment. So the police officers actually visited the couple on multiple occasions, but no arrests were ever made. But already it's not off to a good start. When they visited Las Vegas in July 2021, there was an incident where Courtney had actually thrown a glass and it nearly missed Christian's head. She was essentially arrested and charged with domestic battery. However, the office decided to drop the case in August 2021. According to the reports, neighbors of the couple would frequently hear things being thrown around the room, banging on the walls, as well as constant yelling, but it was unclear who the perpetrator actually was. However, one thing that was clear was the relationship was... Okay, I don't want to say toxic because it was... Toxic is thrown around pretty frequently, but let's just say it just wasn't the healthiest of relationships and they were frequently fighting. Even one of the couple's closest friends, Ashley Vaughn, said that she had frequently seen Courtney slap and, physically hurt Christian, but it was never the other way around. On top of that, a couple of Courtney's exes, one of which was actually the former Mr. Olympia, came forward and said that Courtney was physically abusive towards them throughout their relationship. So there's definitely a history of violence there with Courtney. I couldn't find anything about Christian. Now, in March 2022, the couple had actually decided to end things, but they actually stayed in the apartment together. In that same month, she appeared on the comedy podcast We in Miami, where she talked about how she only dates rich black guys. One thing that is worth mentioning is that in almost all of the podcasts that I have listened to regarding this case, the topic of white privilege and race was brought up. Now, I am going to start by saying I am very, very supportive of interracial couples. I myself am a product of interracial love, interracial marriage, so I'm definitely all for it. I believe that there's nothing wrong with having a preference, but I will say this. In several recordings that Christian actually recorded of Courtney, she has been heard to call Christian the N-word. She was clearly very comfortable calling him the N-word, and I guess he didn't really say or do anything to correct her or stop her. And I mean, she's a grown-ass woman. It's not like she's a teenager or a child anymore. And I don't know, there's not much about her background and her childhood and how she was raised. But yeah, I'm just going to leave that piece of information there. And another thing that we all know is that once we put something out in the internet, it is really, really hard to erase it completely. So internet sleuths decided to go on Twitter and found all these old tweets written by Christian. In these tweets, Christian can be found putting down and criticizing black women. He wrote about how black women are embarrassing, that he was annoyed that they were in the same class as him. It was just giving internalized racism, but... And in a range of other tweets, Christian was seen to be... very vocal about the fact that he wanted to have mixed race babies, and that, only yellow bone girls could pull off things like nose rings, and that, he really, really loved white women. But again, like I said, there is nothing wrong with having a preference, but I do believe that it becomes problematic when you are dragging one race down to highlight how much you like the other. I'm going to give you an example of women and tall men. So in general, women seem to really like to date tall men. In general. So, for example, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, you know, I like tall men. But there's a difference between saying I like tall men compared to a statement like short men are annoying and ugly and don't deserve to have love because they are short, whereas tall men, that's where it's at. Bring a tall man to me. Do you see the difference? You can state your preference without having to drag another group of people down. But I don't want to inject too much of my view into this, but I just wanted to present the facts to you guys, and then you can make your assumption from there. And in no way, shape or form am I insinuating or suggesting that he deserved to die. No one deserves to die at all. What I am highlighting is the irony of these tweets, because essentially it wasn't a black woman who was embarrassing or explosive or aggressive. In fact, after he passed, Christian's family actually set up a GoFundMe to help pay for things like his funeral as well as his legal fees. While some in the community were supportive of this and did contribute to the cause, others brought to light the tweets and they were outraged that the family was seeking the support from the community that Christian put down. Some of the tweets I found said this: "Can we black women, especially Nigerian women, collectively not give a damn or care about Christian Toby Obumseli case? This is not our fight at all." The second one reads, "So Christian Toby Obumseli was on social media passing around anti-black women propaganda and praising only white women, only for white women to kill him, and white police officers refusing to investigate this case. Terrible story, but crazy how the universe works sometimes." Another tweet reads, "I just got one thing to say about this Christian Toby Obumseli situation. Do not call us. Everybody wants black women to rally behind this black man that was killed by the very woman he craved. Call his community, not us. He don't want nothing from us. Respect his wishes." I thought that was pretty interesting, but I'm just going to leave that information there and then you guys can decide what you think about it. Now let's get into what happened on April 3rd, 2022. What happened to Christian, what was his injury, and what was the outcome? So on the 3rd of April 2022, FOPKI records show Christian leaving the building at 1 p.m. and then returning in the late afternoon at 4:32 p.m. Soon after, neighbors called security because they heard a lot of noises and a disturbance coming from their apartment. So security called police at about 4:46 p.m. Later in the investigation, the police found that Courtney actually made 2 phone calls to her mother before she made the 911 call. Now I'm gonna play a short snippet of this clip only because it's really hard to hear the audio and what she's actually saying. She does sound very distressed and you can hear dogs barking in the background, so it is hard to hear and make out what they're saying, but I'm just gonna play it and then we'll flesh it out a little bit more.
3101.
I can't feel my arm.
Ma'am, my boyfriend is dying of a stabbing.
Ma'am, what is the address?
What's the address? What's the address, baby?
3131.
3131 Northeast 7th Ave. Please, God, please, come see my boyfriend.
Ma'am, is this a house apartment or a business?
512-745-2582.
Is this a house apartment or a business?
Baby, I'm so sorry. Baby.
I am also going to put the link of all the videos I use in the description box below. So if you wanted to take a link at the full length audio or video, go for gold. So on this 911 call, you can clearly hear Christian state that he felt like he was dying and that he was losing feeling in his arm. We also hear repeatedly Courtney saying, "I am so sorry," and apologizing to Christian. Authorities arrive soon after and they take Courtney in for questioning while Christian is transported to Jackson Memorial Hospital where he actually later died. But Courtney didn't actually find out that he was dead until after. According to Courtney, Christian came home and he was being super aggressive. He grabbed Courtney by the throat and then shoved her up against the wall and then threw her to the ground, but actually allowed her to get back up. She thought in this moment the only thing that she can do to ensure her safety was run into the kitchen and grab a knife. She said that when she grabbed the knife, Christian started walking towards her and she threw the knife, so chucked it at him, and it actually stabbed him right here in between his arm and his shoulder. And that's when she decided to make the 911 call. So she said that she threw the knife at a distance of about 10 feet, which is 3 meters, and that she acted out of self-defense, not because she was the perpetrator, but because she was fearing for her life. Now, the stab wound was a shocking 8 centimeters deep. So that's pretty deep. Now, the chief medical examiner essentially disagreed, saying that it was impossible for Courtney to have thrown the knife and for it to actually have gone in that deep. I don't know, unless she had experience in javelin throwing or whatever it was, it's near impossible to have a wound that deep from a distance that far. In fact, the autopsy revealed that the knife was actually plunged into Christian from a downwards angle, meaning that it was impossible because Courtney was 5'5" and much shorter than Christian, so she would have had to throw it from a downwards angle, but even then, it would have been impossible. Or because it was a downward motion, she could have been on top of him, like literally him laying down and her grabbing a knife and just stabbing him. But we just don't know. According to case photos from the Miami coroner's office, you can actually see the photo of the stab wound directly above Courtney's name in cursive writing. Soon, investigators tell Courtney that Christian has sadly passed away, and we actually have video footage of this happening.
We have to inform you that Christian did not make it. Okay. Unfortunately, the doctors did what they could. And
Christian is dead.
yes.
Oh my God. This is not real, right? Okay. No, there's no fucking way. Christian died? Can I please have a hug? Am I allowed to do that in here?
Sure. Yeah.
Relax. You'll be fine.
No.
Calm down. Calm down. Take deep breaths.
What was weird to me was that she asked for a hug. I mean, no, I shouldn't be laughing because I know that people that hear shocking news sometimes act quite emotionally. But I don't know, what was weird was that she asked for a hug. The investigator got up to give her a hug and she was like, no. I don't know, I just thought that was weird. But anyway, she was then taken into custody. And get this, not for suspicion of murder, but under the Baker Act, the Florida Baker Act. What is the Florida Baker Act, you might ask? Let me tell you, because I don't really know myself and I had to Google this. But it says here, the Florida Baker Act enables police to bring in people in to provide individuals with emergency services and temporary detention for up to 72 hours pertaining to concern for their mental health.
I cannot be left alone in like a room by myself.
You won't be.
After this. I was like, no, that's not true. I didn't.
Now, in the video, she clearly stated that she couldn't be in the room by herself because she might harm herself, maybe. I don't know. But essentially, she was brought in under the Baker Act. Now, Christian's family did not buy the self-defense story. Now, Christian's brother was angered by the fact that she wasn't charged immediately with the murder of his brother. And he essentially said that it was because of her privilege and her being a wealthy white woman that the case was not taken seriously and she was not held accountable. I think about 2 or 3 days after the stabbing, Courtney was seen to be at a hotel lobby with her father. Now, a couple people had actually approached her with their phones and they were recording her and they were saying, how dare you come out here and, live an easy life when Christian's family is suffering. And they essentially chased her out of the hotel lobby. Now, some sources say that she was being really obnoxious, as in Courtney, she was being really obnoxious. She was being really loud and appearing to be, living the life and having a really good time. While other sources say that she was just sat there enjoying her father's company and it was just a catch up, I guess. But yeah, sources vary in this, so I can't confirm. After 4 long months after the stabbing of Christian, Courtney finally gets arrested and brought in. At the time of her arrest though, she was actually in Hawaii in a rehab center for, get this, PTSD and substance misuse. We're unsure if this is mainly because of the incident that happened in April, but what we do know was that she was in a rehab center in Hawaii. When she was being arrested, it was explained to her that she was being charged with second-degree murder with a deadly weapon. She waived a right to an extradition hearing and she was flown back to Florida to face her murder charges. She was held without the option of bail and soon after, a press conference was held. At this press conference, it was established and evidence was laid out that Courtney was the perpetrator of domestic violence and Christian was a victim in all of this. And one thing they did to really hammer this in was that they revealed footage of both Christian and Courtney in an elevator where Courtney is seen physically abusing and attacking Christian. This incident actually took place only a few weeks before the actual stabbing, and it clearly shows that Courtney was the perpetrator. So let's take a look at the clip together and then we'll flesh it out a little bit more. Before the doors can even close, you can tell Courtney is already very aggressive. She is very angry, and it doesn't take long until she is pulling at his hair, you know, punching his face, slapping him. She is just clearly the perpetrator here. All the while, Christian is trying to push Courtney off of him and back off of him. You know, at no time do I believe that Christian intentionally strikes Courtney or hurts her, but the man was being attacked. I could even see in the comments there were people like, you know, he's bigger than her, so he shouldn't be pushing her like that. But I believe that violence is violence. Violence is never okay. You should never lean on hurting someone else to get your point across. This is what I don't get, like grown people fighting, like use your big boy or your big girl words and communicate. I also did want to mention that there was a video of Courtney saying that she wanted to kill Christian. She says, "I'm actually effing not having a good day where I actually literally effing want to kill you, but you don't take me seriously." She said that. Now, Courtney's defense said that it was a really low blow for them to actually showcase that video because they didn't show the events leading up to what actually happened in the elevator. The defense argued that Christian was the abusive one and Courtney was merely defending herself in all of this. However, newly related text messages found on Christian's iCloud revealed that Courtney could have been the perpetrator. He said to her, "Is love going to kill me? February was the worst month I had so far. I got cheated on. I got called that N-word again. I got slapped in my stitches. That has reopened multiple times and is not healing fast enough." Now, sources online actually state that he was stabbed in the leg so badly that he couldn't walk. He also had cuts and bruises on his chin and he actually required stitching for them. It is unclear whether Courtney was the attacker behind his injuries, but maybe we can assume that she was. Again, we don't know. There's just not enough evidence. The defense went actually one step further and said that it was morally unjust to accuse the victim of a DV situation, which was Courtney in their eyes, as well as a victim of human trafficking. Now, when I had read this, I was really confused because I had no idea where this idea of human trafficking came from with Courtney. It just sort of came out of nowhere. They could be making the case that Christian had maybe mentally or physically coerced her into posting that sort of content on OnlyFans, but they would have to have evidence that he benefited financially from her making this content. So maybe they're trying to argue the case that he was exploiting her for a body and then benefiting off the profits that she made. But I believe she was actually already posting that sort of content well before they started dating. But again, there isn't enough information out there because it is a fairly new case, so I'm not completely sure. On top of that, the defense attorney also went to court and said that the evidence of her in that elevator with Christian should be sealed because it was swaying public opinion and that was unjust. The prosecution then argued that they were trying to change the narrative of the case and that at the end of the day, Courtney was the perpetrator and that evidence shouldn't be sealed. And then Courtney's attorney was like, at best, it's manslaughter, not second-degree murder. I don't know, they were playing ping pong going back and forth, but it was just messy. So Courtney then appeared to court on September 6, where the defense wanted to protect the adult content that was on Courtney's phone. So the defense believed that this adult content on Courtney's phone would taint the jury's perception of Courtney and that it would ultimately result in an unfair trial. So they were essentially arguing the fact that the sexually explicit content that Courtney made had nothing to do with the case, so it shouldn't be brought up. But I'm just thinking, if they were making a case that she was a victim of human trafficking, wouldn't they need that sort of sexually explicit content if they are making that case? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer here, but something's not adding up. It's just not making sense to me. So this is a video of Courtney in court. She is almost unrecognizable. I mean, you can tell that she does not look like she is mentally in a good space, and it's pretty evident why. But in my opinion, she does look pretty different from where she was in April 2022. Her defense attorneys are claiming that she is on the side of innocence, and they are saying it is a one-sided snapshot in this time. It is not the whole story. In a statement, they said, "It's missing context. The most sensational pieces of evidence are being cherry-picked by reporters without proper context to feed the public's curiosity with this case. What is clear to us is that the evidence shows extreme emotions and dysfunction of a relationship off the rails." In the media, I am yet to see a video of Christian being violent or reports of Christian being violent towards Courtney, but there are tons of evidence and media outlets, podcasts, YouTube videos, sources that can confirm that Courtney has been aggressive not only to her previous partners, but towards Christian. So the trial is yet to be held, but when it is, you best believe I am going to be listening. I am going to be on it. And who knows, maybe I will make a part 2 to this video or add on further. But for now, that is all the information that I have heard on the Courtney Clenney case. And that is that. So although the number of women who are victims of domestic violence is significantly higher, we have to consider the fact that a lot of domestic and family violence cases where the woman is the perpetrator, it often doesn't get acknowledged because it is underreported or underestimated. I mean, I've seen social experiments where, you have a male and a female and they pretend to be this couple and to go out. So what they'll do is they'll set up 2 scenarios where one, the male is being abusive towards the female. So, pushing her, shoving her, shouting at her, versus another situation where you see the woman doing the violence, so the woman pushing, shoving and yelling the male, and then they would record public reactions to what is happening in these 2 scenarios, obviously separately at separate times. Now, often what would happen is that the public would see the male perpetrator, abusing the female, and it doesn't take long until someone jumps in, protects the female, and, gets to a point where they're actually quite physically violent with the male. And, they're trying to set him straight and saying, violence is never okay. Why would you do that? But flick over to the other scenario, most of the time you just see people staring or people looking, maybe people giving more thought about what could actually be happening in the situation. I believe I saw a video where anyone came up to defend the male that was being attacked or abused. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and it did make me sad to to think about that. But I know that every case is different and we can't really judge a book by its cover. But given all the evidence that has been presented and all the evidence that I've found on this case, I do believe that she is guilty of second-degree murder. But what do you guys think? Do you think that she is a victim of domestic violence and this was her way of just getting out of a dangerous situation? Or do you think that she was the perpetrator of DV and should be held accountable? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. We have talked about a bunch of different things. But yeah, I'm keen to hear your thoughts. So don't be shy. It's a judgment-free zone. Feel free to comment. I'm keen to hear what you guys think about this case. Okay, guys. Well, I think that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next week with a brand new true crime video. And until then, please stay safe and I will see you next week. Bye.